Hello, love.
Hello.
Hi. I was thinking today we've met, one time in real
hmm
human form almost a year ago. Almost a year
Yeah,
ago,
I
actually.
think it was
Like
March. Yeah.
it was March. It was middle of March. Yeah, amazing. I'm so happy to have you here and
I'm
to
so happy to be here. I remember and I went to a event with you and Cam and
Mhm,
um you led a meditation and
mhm.
I am very particular about my meditations that I like of the people that I listen to because
Yeah.
some people just don't have the voice for it, you know? And I
Mhm.
listen to my own meditations a lot, but I heard your meditation and I was like, it's like caramel, for the
Oh,
ears. It was beautiful. So I was like, I like this girl.
yes. Thank you. Well received. Yeah. Yeah, that was such a cool event. Side note, congratulations on your new marriage.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you. It's
Mhm.
still getting used to it, but it's actually really nice to be married, to be honest. I'm
Yeah.
really enjoying it. And people say that well, people are like, oh, nothing changes. But I feel like when you're in a growth-oriented relationship, like at least for
Hmm.
us, and marriage isn't for everyone, but it was for us, like it really did. It just felt like a really big energetic shift in our relationship and in
Yeah.
our vision for life. So that was really cool to witness.
Yeah, I love that. And isn't that, in the perfect world what it should be?
Yeah.
It,
hmm
it's significant. Like it should, I think it should, something should feel different. It's a big
Yeah.
deal. Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Ah. Um, Straight out of the gates, I'm just going to ask the question, what are you reclaiming these days?
Oh, you just hit me with it. I've been reflecting today on like where I have been reclaimed in my life, but I'm like,
Hmm.
what am I reclaiming now?
I'm not
You know,
pretending I have my answer either. So
okay.
I'm just throwing it out
Okay.
there.
You know, one of the things that I've been really working on this year is I'm a manifesting generator. So I'm fast and efficient.
Hmm.
Okay, yeah. But
Hmm.
like that has its downfalls, right? Because you can skip steps and rush. And I've been really focusing on the past couple months, realizing where that's been like a sabotage pattern within myself, where it's like, where am I actually stopping myself from, without sounding super masculine, like reaching my highest potential in my
Hmm.
work, in what I do, because I'm being so quick with what I'm doing. And so I've been really working on like focusing on being more detail oriented. And so I think it's like, I don't know what level of reclamation that is, but felt really good and like
Hmm.
reclaiming like the quality that I put out into the world,
Oh,
um, and like reclaiming slowness at the moment.
yes.
hmm
Yeah. It's funny that you say slowness. I feel like the universe is doing this thing to me where it's like, hey, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. So similar, like I move fast, also manifesting generator. I move fast and I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. So
Yeah.
there's almost been this like I don't know how to slow down because if I slow down, then I
Mhm.
stop. And if I stop, then I like starve. And if I starve, then I die. Like I can't stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And wow, yeah, my like life lesson this lifetime is to learn to be slow and do things slow. And you'd think that would be easy, and it's
Oh my
just not
God.
that easy.
Oh my gosh, it's not easy. I was listening to your story on your podcast earlier and resonated so hard with that, because I was an athlete for many years and like I think women athletes are like ingrained to like push past your boundaries and
Yeah.
like work really hard and waking up at 5 a.m. every day, 4 a.m. every day to work out. And not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but it's like just go, 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 go. And it's being a female athlete is amazing because women are fucking incredible, but at the same time, you're told to ignore like the normal cycles that it is to be a woman, which means like we have periods of like bursts of energy and then we do need to come back into slowness. And that led me to my own level of like chronic fatigue and like overexhaustion. And
Mhm.
so my journey now is just allowing myself to go with the rhythms, and like the slowness is uncomfortable, but there's also so much power in that. And now that I've done the work to face myself, I'm not afraid of the slowness, because the slowness used to be scary because with stillness comes thoughts. And if you haven't faced your thoughts, they're very scary, right?
Hmm. That's the work. I feel
That
like
is the work.
that is the work, which I'm sure we'll get into because we both do very similar things now. Um, tell me a little bit about, I know a little bit about, but I want more details of your journey. It's amazing.
I've had a really interesting journey to leading to what I do today. There's kind of two parts to it. The first part of it is I grew up in Vancouver, Canada, where I am now, as a very insecure, self-conscious young woman, unfortunately, but also it was an incredible gift. And I was in this bizarre, wacky, incredible sport of synchronized swimming, which is also called artistic swimming. And I was never the best. I was never the most talented. I was kind of the person that everyone knew wasn't going anywhere. At 18 years old, when I was in grade 12, I retired. There was nowhere else for me to go. And I thought that was the end of the line. And life and universe took me down a different path when 3 years later, I was in university at going to UBC. I had a concussion one day at a practice, a synchro practice that I was going to. I had previously trained competitively, and then I continued in university just training for fun, because that's why we do sport as well, which I had to learn. And I got a really bad concussion, and that, if anyone has ever had a concussion, the only way to heal a concussion is to do nothing and rest your brain. And for somebody who is afraid of themselves, for someone who has low self-esteem, low self-confidence, that's probably like the most scary thing you could ever do. Because previously I was working 3 jobs and I was going to university and I was training, and I all of a sudden had to face myself. And that was the first moment when I started to get into meditation, because literally it's all you can do. And that was also just before I was about to turn 21. The day after my 21st birthday, I was on the phone with a girlfriend of mine at the time who was a previous teammate. She got a Facebook message from the assistant national team coach for the Australian synchronized swimming team. Both of us were, not at a competitive level anymore, but this coach reached out to her because my friend had Australian Canadian dual citizenship and had done synchronized swimming. It was 2013, the end of 2013. The 2012 Olympics were the previous year, and a lot of the team retired, and they were working on rebuilding the team. She reached out to her and she said, any chance you'd want to come out and try out for the Australian team? We're trying to rebuild the team so they qualify for the 2016 Rio Olympics. And as a friend, I was like, this is amazing. You got to do this. I believe in you, cheering her on, as we often do for our friends, but don't do the same for ourselves. And I was cheering her on, and then she was always a much better athlete than myself. After about half an hour, the excitement wears off, and she turns around, she looks at me, and she's like, well, Danielle, you could do this too. My parents are both Australian, even though I was born in Canada, and I did synchronized swimming. But at the time I'm in Canada, I have a concussion. I was never the most talented, right? Like, I basically, if you were to like stack up all the things that you possibly could against me, like I had all of the list of reasons why I couldn't. And at first I laughed. I was like, there's no way. And I just kind of let that seed sink into my mind and sprout. And I really started to reflect on it. That opportunity would not come around twice in a lifetime. And I realized that if I was to look back at my life when I was about to pass away someday, I would want to have looked back and said, at least I tried. Even if I fail, at least I had the courage to try. I would rather try and fail than always wonder who I could have been.
Yeah.
And regretted. And that little thought literally changed the trajectory of my life. And even though I was so scared of judgment, and I was so scared of failure, and so scared of what everyone was going to think of me, and like so scared of how the heck I'm going to make this happen, I was luckily still young and naive, and I within 6 months, I officially dropped out of university. I moved across the world. I didn't know anyone. I moved to Perth, Australia. I had 2 suitcases, and I dove headfirst into this journey that eventually led me to the 2016 Olympic Games for Australia. I competed on the team for 5 years, and I retired in 2019 when I was trying out for when I was on my way to see if I was going to go to the second Olympics in 2020. Um, and the reason that I left sport on the other side is because I felt this pull to something else.
Uh-huh.
I made this vow with the universe on this whole leap to the Olympic Games. I was like, if I'm able to pull this off, like the biggest manifestation of my life,
Mm-hmm.
it's so much bigger than me and I have to do something with it. And so
Mm-hmm.
that led me to leaving being an athlete, because being an athlete is incredible, but it's also a very selfish pursuit because you have to be selfish.
Yeah.
And I moved into this world of initially I was wanting to do speaking, but uh, the pandemic hit and that wasn't really possible. And so it moved
Yeah.
into this world of online coaching and now running programs and working with clients and running retreats, and has led into this whole nother world, which I'm so grateful to be in.
Whoa. I got chills, obviously. Yeah, that's a beautiful story. I got chills in that. I love that there was, and I don't know if your family brought you up in this way, but that deep sense of trust in something bigger than yourself. Like, where did that come from for you?
I actually grew up Catholic. So I was in Catholic school for 12 years. And I
Okay.
always resonated with the something bigger, but I never resonated with like the way that Catholics did it, right? It's like, why do you have to go to confession? Like, why do you need to be baptized, to be allowed into heaven and all these things? And
Mm-hmm.
so from a young age, I mean, I'm a Scorpio. My sun sign's a Scorpio. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm here for the depth.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always just questioning that
Mm-hmm.
kind of the structures and systems, but I believe the God part, the universe part.
Yeah.
And I think that that allowed me to have that backing. And then through my 20s, it was really, okay, I believe this bigger thing. What does that look like and feel like for me outside of like the barriers of religion? And I had to do a lot of work too to like, even like in the past couple of years, I started to use the word God because previously I would
Mm-hmm.
be like, I can't use that because
Mm-hmm.
that felt like too much, like in the church.
Yeah.
But it's been really beautiful to reclaim that word for myself on the theme
Mm-hmm.
of affirmation.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna feed off of that. So I was raised with no religion.
Mm,
My dad's mom was very Catholic, and so it was always like, oh, grandma's going to church, and it was always like grandma and none of her children and none of their children. And yeah, it's interesting. And so the word God also to me was like, oh, that's for other people. Like I don't have a
mm,
relationship with this being that is God. And it's been just in the last few years deepening into this work where that I'm really like wanting to call that in eh,
mm,
like the God in each of us. This like there's just yeah, there's it's to me it's like a non-question. Of course there's something bigger and more powerful than this tiny little human. And that word is starting, it feels like it's making like a resurgence in a really powerful way. And I'm quite excited about it because I feel like there's so many of us who didn't have a relationship with that who are starting to open to
mm,
that. And there's so much power there.
absolutely. And it's so, I
Hmm.
think it's really beautiful to see on all the different levels how people are reclaiming that word and that relationship because um, unfortunately religion has bastardized it.
Hmm.
But a really powerful conversation I actually had with my dad. My dad's about to turn 75. My parents were 43 when I was born. So they're quite a lot, older than the
Yeah.
average parents. And they grew up in Sydney, Australia. And I asked my dad, because he's similar to myself, quite a deep thinker. I was like, well, why are you Catholic? Like, why did you choose this one? And he goes, I was born into a Catholic family. I lived in a Catholic neighborhood. I went to a Catholic school. All my friends were Catholic. And the only way I would ever learn about another religion is if I went to the library. And
Uh,
I had this moment where I was like, because he said to me, he's like, I think maybe if I grew up in these days, like I might believe something different, but I've just believed this for all these years. And so it's a level of
wow.
comfort. And that was really eye-opening to me because for a long time I had a big like hatred against like the Catholic Church and just this
Hmm.
like, oh, like you've done so much to so many people.
Hmm.
But it gave me, it was a really beautiful way to reflect on, the beauty of the internet and like the
Hmm.
globalization of the world, because now we get to share these ideas. Like my dad
Hmm.
literally couldn't learn about any other faith unless he went to the library. Like we're so privileged nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's also something, the community that comes with religion, like
Yeah.
that's so special. Cam and I live right down the road from a church, and we both, like, neither of us were raised with religion, neither of us, go to church. And walking by every week and seeing the collaboration of all of these people coming together, like we've said, like the world is missing this, and it
Yeah.
feels almost like church. Like I say, like the word God is like making this resurgent. It almost feels like, I don't know, or if I'm just more aware of it, but like more and more people are finding community and finding camaraderie in church again. Like our church is just, it's like bumping. It looks like a really good time. They're having like parties in the summer out in the grass, and
Yeah.
they're always like, "Come on in, bring your dogs, come over." We're like, "Yeah." But we probably should, like it looks like a good
Yeah.
time. So there's also that aspect of it, which I feel like is similar to sports, similar to like
Yeah.
CrossFit, is that community. It's so important. And I know that you do a lot of one-on-one coaching, and I'm correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you do some group coaching as well, but do you find it, well, I think I know the answer because I know my answer. And so I'm like, well, it's
Yeah.
gotta be everyone's answer. The potency in retreat, like when you're in that group,
Oh my
can we just
gosh.
can we just talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, I do one-on-one coaching, but my favorite is actually working with groups of women
Yeah.
because and it comes full circle too, because I was in a team sport my whole life. So I
Hmm.
was always on a team with 8 women
Hmm.
minimum, and then sometimes we would have 12 or 16 on the squad. And I was brought up in close barriers with women, and this is the sign I'm so grateful for. I was in an all-girls school, and I went to an all-girls sport. I went, yeah, all-girls school, and I was in an all-girls sport, and I like just realize how incredible women are. And that's in the work that I do. It's like there is so much healing and transformation literally if you just hold space to bring women together and you strip back all of our layers of like, and our masks of who we think we are, and our sisterhood wounds, and just
Hmm.
in that in and of itself
Hmm.
becomes like a portal for healing. And then if you actually bring in, the breath work or the inner work, or, the somatics or whatever it may be, it's just this real beauty. And I there is healing that, of course can happen really powerful by yourself, but it is so much more magical when you are together.
It really is. Yeah. And it's almost unexplainable. Like I feel like my words never really do it justice. Um, Question for your synchro days.
Yeah.
Was it always sweet, or what were you coming up against? Because like young girls, you get a group of young girls
Mm.
together, it isn't always healing. So
Yeah, that's so true.
what was that experience like for you? Was it always smooth?
I'd say like 80% of it was,
Wow.
because I'm very grateful, to be because of the dynamics of synchronized swimming, you have to get along or else it's not going to fucking
Mm,
work. Like you are
right.
lifting each other out of the water, and it is
Mm-hmm.
probably one of the most interwoven team dynamics in any sport.
Mm-hmm.
Like a sports psychologist or professionals say that rowing and synchronized swimming are the most team dependent. So it's like you got
Okay.
to sort your shit out before you get in the pool, or else you're not going to be
Yeah.
it's not going to be safe, really.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of, and I think that's led me so naturally into what I do now. There was a lot of personal development and growth to be
Mm-hmm.
able to like have quite good relationships. We would purposely do team bonding activities, because like the
Mm-hmm.
deeper that you outside of, the pool, because the more that you bond, the better you are in the pool. But of
Mm-hmm.
course there was times, when that didn't end up, there was challenges. I speak about it a bit in my book, but the friend of mine that originally also got the offer to go to Australia, her and my friendship through our growth to the Olympics completely fell apart, and she's not a part of my life anymore. And that was a beautiful learning lesson, but it was because of that jealousy. And
Mm-hmm.
it was such a gift to experience that, because in many ways I learned through And she didn't end up making it to the Olympics, ironically, and she was
Oh,
always the one that was
interesting.
better. And it was this
Hmm.
literally this case study where two girls from the same city moved to the same city in Australia that went after the same goal. One made it,
Hmm.
one didn't. And so,
Yeah.
like, what's the difference? And
Yeah.
one of the things that I really noticed was, and I'm humbly very proud of this, but like the level of self-awareness that I chose to have, realizing
Hmm.
that I'm not the best person in the world. I will
Hmm.
never be the best, and I'm always willing to grow and take feedback on. And because of her, the things that she had been through in her life, she had a lot of challenge getting constructive
Hmm.
criticism, and that led to like her having challenges with her ego and challenges with the team dynamic, and
Hmm.
ultimately led her to not making the team. And so
Yeah.
it was this really beautiful witnessing of, wow, like being the capacity to be self-aware is actually like one of the most powerful tools in success that I think people undervalue.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't disagree with you on that. And yeah. Hmm.
And like even in relationship, right? Like where am I
Oh.
doing well? Where can I improve? Where can I realize that I'm not the smartest person in the room? Where can I take on feedback? Where can I take on
Hmm.
feedback to the point that it hurts my ego? you
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
like that. But it's such a skill for growth in the long run.
It it really, really is. I had an interesting conversation with a friend of mine the other day. He and I work together, and I really respect him, and I know he really respects me. And uh, I I kept something from him. I didn't tell him something because I was still working through it in my mind. And had I worked through it fully, one of the results would impact him. It would impact our working relationship. Anyways, he heard through someone about it
Mm,
and called me on it and said, "Hey, I want to talk to you about this thing. I heard XYZ, and I have to tell you, like, I'm mad at you. Like, I'm kind of pissed off that you didn't tell me." And then listed why. And instantly I went into like, oh, what have I done wrong? Like, I'm so bad. All of the like,
mm,
I'm in trouble storylines. But an old me would have gotten super defensive and
mm,
like fought it. But I was able to like sit and listen to him to recognize also that him sharing that with me was a that's also really vulnerable and really brave. And so I took it and I took it, and he finished, and we both ended up in tears, but I was able to share like, hey, this is what's up. And I actually hadn't, anyways, I told him my whole thing, and it resulted so beautifully, and it deepened our
mm,
connection immediately. And the I left where we were, drove home, got home and sat with it. And I was like, God, am I ever grateful that uh, I have relationships with people that we can have these conversations, and
mm,
that that I can hold that, and just really witnessing how that would not have happened even a few years ago. So
mm.
it's yeah, it's good work. It's hard work,
It's
and it's
hard, but it's like it's so beneficial, I feel like, in all of your relationships, right? Like even in my relationship, with my now husband, still working on saying that husband. But you know, like if I always think I'm right, that's gonna eventually hurt our relationship. And
hmm.
like being able to take responsibility for my part in it, and
Hmm.
also, and this is why I love, yeah, one of the pillars of what I do is helping women on their self-worth. It's because if we
Hmm.
come from this foundation that we know that we're ultimately worthy, right? No
Hmm.
matter on, we're not circumstantially worthy, we're ultimately worthy always.
Hmm.
Then if someone gives us feedback, it doesn't mean that we're not worthy. It just means that we
Yeah.
have spaces to grow, right? Because
Yeah.
usually, and we're all going to feel triggered initially, but usually the reason why people struggle with it is because if I accept that that's true, then that means that my core wound of not enough, not capable,
Hmm.
not worthy, whatever it may be, is true, and we will always fight to defend that.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit, because I know you do empowerment work with your clients.
Yeah.
Are you strictly with women?
I have worked with I've had some men come into my programs, but
Yeah.
I seem to attract women mostly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you work in the pillars of self-worth and mindset. Can
Mm.
you, yeah, tell me why those two?
A lot of my journey to the Olympic Games, I realized was the huge lesson in self-worth and mindset. I had this moment it was March 2016, we had qualified our nation for the Olympics and we had to qualify ourselves. So, a lot of people don't know this, but you can qualify a country, but you still individually have to qualify as an athlete within the team. And so I was going into Olympic team trials and I was facing my teammates, and which is challenging. And I had this moment about a week and a half before where it really was this moment of, oh, okay, well, if I don't make this team, I literally am going to fail. Like, that big fear of failure, like this will be a big fat failure.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of people, when I started on my journey, they were doubting me. But at this point, we're about 6 months out from the Olympics, people were like backing me. Like I was improving. People were booking tickets. Like there was a lot of pressure, much less like, just people booking tickets, but also having to get on the team and, make it. And I had this moment where I was like, what if I don't make it? And realizing now in hindsight, it was also this beautiful process of manifestation that I didn't really realize, where I had this aha moment because I realized that it was never about the Olympics. It was actually about proving to myself that I was good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I proved that to myself in the pursuit of going after the thing that I dared to dream about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that if I failed and I didn't make it, I was still enough because I showed myself how capable I was in the process. And I, in that moment, released my expectation. I was like, I'm going to go into this trial and do the best that I possibly can. And just release that I have to make it to prove to myself that I'm enough, and go into this knowing that I'm enough, and I'm going to give myself grace and whatever the outcome is. And because of that, and of course, all the work that I did and all the risk that I took, I ended up going from when I first moved to Australia being the bottom of the team to not only making the team, but coming fourth.
Wow.
And I truly attribute that to working on my self-worth, but also in the process of it, working on my mindset. And I really believe that these two go hand in hand because, the basis of working on our self-worth, I think almost every woman has to work on her self-worth. I've met maybe a couple in my life where they are just genuinely confident and it's amazing and just let them do their thing. Yes. But for most of us, we have some core wound of not being enough or not being worthy for whatever it is. But it's also a gift because I always had this core wound that I was never enough. But if I never had that core wound, I would have never gone on this whole crazy pursuit to the Olympic Games to prove to myself that I was enough, which has driven me to do so much that I have done in my life.
Yeah.
And so realizing there's a shadow and light side of every limiting belief that we have is so freaking powerful, right? Because I think sometimes people can get into parts of this work and they go, oh, why do I have this? I just need to delete this belief system. I just need to let it go. But it's that's also doing you justice, right? That's also giving you great things.
Yes.
And then the other side of it, in the sense of the mindset, is I see so many people that they have these incredible dreams and they never end up manifesting them into reality. It is because they give up along the way, because they're afraid of failure, they're afraid of judgment, they're afraid of how long it's going to take. And there are so many dreams that die in this process. We're not short of ideas, but we are short of people actually doing it. And that's where I believe that this mindset comes in, because we have this I see so many people, they have a dream and then they want to actualize, and it's okay, I'm just going to dream it and then I'm going to actualize it and it's going to come next week. It's you have never watched any interesting movie or read any interesting book that was oh, they dreamed it and then it happened. That just doesn't exist. It doesn't. No. You will face challenge after challenge after challenge after challenge. And I'm not saying that life has to be hard, but adversity happens for us to grow. And so, in the work that I do, showing women, how do we shift our perspective on all the stuff that happens to us? How can we hold the vision in those moments when we feel like we want to give up? And really, what I've been leaning into this past couple of years is how do we do the mindset work in a feminine
Mhm.
way. I saw this
Yeah.
post actually that you put up. I'm not sure when it was, but it's like, it's not just about mindset. And I totally agree with you, because mindset has to come back to, okay, it's in our mind. We have to move through it somatically or in
Yeah.
some deeper way, right? Because I think we
Yeah.
think mindset is David Goggins running a fucking marathon with a broken foot. It's
Yeah.
like, good on you, David Goggins. But like, women don't work like that.
No,
You
no.
know?
And I question like, should anyone really actually work like that? But
Yeah,
he's a
exactly.
powerful, powerful force.
Yeah. Yeah, so he
Ah.
has like an incredible message in another way, but
Mhm.
I think this new wave of what I'm hoping to see in the world, at least for women, is how can we do this mindset work in a feminine way, which comes
Yeah.
from looking at our feeling our emotions. Like it's okay for
Mhm.
us to have a bad day and feel all the stuff that is coming up. Just
Mhm.
in that, we don't want to give up because of what we're feeling in this moment, you
Yeah.
know, and then having processes to work through that and looking deeper within our psyche is like, is there part of us that is like blocking ourselves or stopping ourselves from getting to this next level? Or, you know, what lesson are we learning in this? And there's like so many other ways to look at it, as you probably know as well. But
Mhm.
yeah, I learned the mindset from a masculine perspective of being an athlete. And then since doing this work, it's like, how do I integrate the feminine part of that as well in a way that's actually supportive for my body?
Yeah. Well, to me, it's like when you say that, like the mindset from the masculine space, like that I think that gets to be okay. And
Yeah.
then so like the act of like, that really like fiercely focused mindset work, then the feminine aspect of that is, can I embody it? Like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm thinking it, I'm projecting it, I'm planning it, I'm seeing it. Yes, yes, yes. Great. And now can I be it? Now can I be it? And I do a lot of that with my clients as well. It's like, what is it that you want? This is a really simple example. And okay, so we see it, we know it, we get into the visualization of it, get into the feeling state of it, like see, smell, taste, get your senses in there, get the feminine energies in there, and then start to be that now. And so my question is like,
Mm.
for you, like who taught you courage? Because that's what all of that took. Like you had the fear and you had the
Mm.
desire, but because you hadn't done it yet, there isn't actual confidence because we haven't done it. So it has to take courage to get you there. So like who taught you courage? Bless their hearts, because so many people don't take that step because
Mm.
they don't know how to move with courage. So yeah, where did you learn that?
That's such a great question. I really believe that my courage came from my sport.
Mm.
I did the sport. Yeah, I did synchronized swimming for so many years, and I was always kind of like the awkward when I was little. I was always like the awkward chubby girl, and in these tiny little sparkly bathing suits. Bless my cotton socks. So I
It's
love
so
little
cute.
me, right? But that was me. I was the awkward chubby girl on the side, and I realized that if I went into the pool and I swam, feeling and embodying like I was the awkward chubby girl, that looks weird. Like it does. Like, have you ever seen someone like goes out there and like does a dance, but like they can feel that they look like an idiot. So then they look like an idiot just because they're thinking
Mm-hmm.
that they look like an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so what I learned, you know, it was literally conditioned into me because I started when I was 8 years old. Is like, if I go out there and compete, and even if I don't feel confident, if I pretend that I'm confident,
Mm-hmm.
then I
Mm-hmm.
look more confident, and then it actually looks better overall. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
this, I say this, and a lot of people have an issue with this word, but this phrase, but I believe it in a different way. It was this fake it till you make it. But it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like, I'm going to be fake. I think that's what people misinterpret in
Mm-hmm.
that. It's not, I'm going to be inauthentic. It's,
Mm-hmm.
I realized from a young age, if I step into a higher version of myself and I
Mm-hmm.
just pretend to embody and be this woman, even if it's
Yeah.
for 3, 4, 5 minutes when I'm in the pool, if I
Mm-hmm.
do that more often, I'm eventually going to become her. And then it's becoming that next level of her, and then becoming that next level of her. And so I really learned through sport of like how to lean into fear. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
would stand there on, if anyone has ever watched synchronized swimming, it's an
Mm-hmm.
incredible sport, and I suggest you
Mm-hmm.
YouTube it. But part of what we do is we have to stand on stage before the music starts, and then you dive in the pool. And
Mm-hmm.
those like 10 seconds when you're in your whatever silly pose that you're in, and you were just waiting to get in the water, is like the longest 10 seconds of your life. You feel like you're going to throw up. And the hardest thing is, you know that you're about to dive in the water and do the hardest thing that you have ever done, because
Mm-hmm.
you're it's hypoxic training. You're up and under, you're holding your breath for half of it. Your heart rate's at 180 beats per minute. You get so much lactic acid in your body, you feel like you're going to pass out. You're literally fighting your mind to tell you that you are going to be okay, because your lungs are screaming at you because you need breath, but you need to keep going. And every time you pop up, you have to smile. And
Oh.
so I had to learn that I had to lean into that. And even though I was terrified when I was little, up until the moment I went to the Olympics and beyond, on the other side, I would always be proud of myself that I did it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I trained my brain to really see and believe it's like you can do the hard thing and you'll
Mm-hmm.
be proud that you did it. And I really believe that in those little pieces of courage over those years led me to take bigger leaps in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying everyone needs to take up synchronized swimming, but it's like it really is the tiny little building blocks. It's like going and doing the thing that you are afraid to do, going
Mm-hmm.
in, walking up to that person, having a conversation, going to that event, going to the
Mm-hmm.
gym in the morning, when you don't feel like it. It's like, how can
Mm-hmm.
you allow yourself to build that muscle in little ways? Because eventually you're going to have a moment where you have to take a bigger leap, and you're actually going to have a lot of self trust, even though you're scared, and you're going to lean in anyways.
Mm-hmm. Well, the way you describe that is like that's manifestation process. It's like, and so fake it till you make it, or could it be like be it, like be in the energy
Mm-hmm.
of until you actually just are it. And whether it's, yeah, like training for the Olympics or going to the gym in the morning because you made a decision that you want to be the fittest at 40 than you've ever been in your whole life. Well, what is that going to take? It's going to take dedication to your fitness. So being that, like being in the energy of it's really quite simple
Yeah, it
to do
is.
the
And
thing.
and
Yeah.
that I think that from a mindset perspective, what helps me is like, am I going to be proud of, like, it might be hard now in the next 5 minutes, but am I going to be proud after? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we choose what's easy now and is
Mm-hmm.
hard in the long term, as opposed to what's
Mm-hmm.
hard now and easy in the long term. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, if you can start to shift, whether
Mm-hmm.
it be like habits that you take, or like a diet that you're like, a different way of eating that you're wanting to change,
Mm-hmm.
or a different person that you're wanting to be, like, how can you learn that and train your brain to realize that the hard now is going to be easy in the long term? Like, here's a stupid example. When I was like 12, I had this obsession with yogurt. And I also was lactose intolerant, so like yogurt ain't good for me, right? Not
Yeah.
good.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to realize, as I like developed this lactose intolerant, is like, if I eat the yogurt now, which feels good now, I am not going to feel good later. And so I
Mm-hmm.
trained my brain to the fact that like yogurt, like it like disgusts me, like a dairy yogurt disgusts me, because it's not good for my body, because my
Mm-hmm.
body can't process it very well. So therefore I like trained myself to, even that's something that was so hard in the short term because I love my yogurt, I like eventually gave it up and I don't even crave it, right? So it's just like this silly little way of like, and that helps me with anything. Like I went for a run earlier today, and it's like I knew that I wanted to do it, but I also didn't want to do it because
Mm-hmm.
the duality. But I was like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna feel good afterwards. Okay, so I'm just gonna focus on the afterwards instead of the hard in the now, because
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna give me the motivation to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that. Um, what is the most, I don't even know how to ask this question, and I don't know if you can answer it because I know that I struggle when I get asked questions similar to this, but working with women are you noticing a theme? Like what is the thing that we're struggling with? What are you most hearing from your female clients, women coming to retreat and working with you in one-on-one spaces?
There's a couple of things, and maybe I can't speak to this as like a global truth, but
Yeah.
it might be just processes of what, I'm working on embodying in my journey and the lessons that I've learned. Three things that I notice is consistently women's self-worth and confidence,
Mm-hmm.
like, and that relating so deeply to women's body image.
Yeah.
I, like I said, I've only met a couple of women in my life that don't have some issues with their body, or have
Mm-hmm.
have had them, or have had to work through them. um and then burnout, women
Mm-hmm.
overworking
Mm-hmm.
and making themselves exhausted. And then also noticing a lot more recently, like women's relationship to, if you're a heterosexual woman, like
Mhm.
women's relationship to men and
Mhm.
their safety around men. We've had
Mhm.
that was a big theme at our last retreat that just came up naturally. And we had a
Mhm.
lot of reels that have gone viral recently around
Mhm.
like this fear of men and healing that relationship with men. And it's been heartbreaking and eye-opening to read the comments and just see how many women are struggling with that.
I've seen those reels and I've read some of the comments, and
Yeah.
it is wild. Yeah. And I just pause on that. The work that you guys are doing as a couple is really beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you. It's
Yeah.
really it's interesting because people said to us, we initially weren't planning to run women's only retreats. And even women at our last retreat said to us, they're like, I thought it was kind of weird that Luke is here. At first, Luke is my husband. And then they're like, but then it makes so much sense because
Hmm.
we hold that masculine and that feminine really well. And
Hmm.
Luca, I mean, his own experience within his life, you know, he's an incredible person, but he grew up in a really violent household.
Hmm.
And he saw a lot of violence against his mother. So
Hmm.
he, at the same time, like even though it might seem different to people initially, he is such an advocate for women, like women standing up for themselves, because
Hmm.
he was became a victim to
Hmm.
an oppressed woman in his life. And so like
Yeah.
he has such a passion for inspiring women too, which is really beautiful. But it would be
Hmm.
weird if he did them by himself. So like, you
Yeah.
know, and I
Right.
bring my own part to that too. So it's really beautiful to do it together. And it's something that we're just absolutely, I mean, you do retreats. Like there's just no
Hmm.
words. Like they are the coolest thing in the world.
Truly. And so yeah, I do hold, so I held a retreat recently, well, in November. So we're February right now. It's a few months ago. And we had two men and 8 women. And there's something really potent, like you spoke to earlier, of being in circle with women and being in
Yeah.
containers just with women. And then there's a whole, it's not deeper, but it's a different and as potent experience when we're co-ed. Like the healing that can
Mm,
happen when the men come together with the women with the same intention of coming together is so fucking powerful.
mhm.
And like, my partner very well. You've known my partner
Yeah.
longer than I've known my partner.
Yeah.
And so
That's so
you,
funny. I didn't think about it, but yes, yeah. I've known
yeah, you've
Cam for
known him.
longer than you've known Cam. That's so wild. You would probably you know him better than me though, more
I know. Oh,
intimately.
I know him differently. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's so many women that I know that have worked with him. They're like, and you know what? Wow. Myself, actually. So prior to being in a relationship with Cam, I was in a breathwork journey with Cam online, which still surprises me that online breath can still be as powerful as it is. But
Mm,
nonetheless, I went into the breath journey without any intention I don't think I went in with any intention. And what was coming up for me, and it was him leading, and then he had his support, Ryan, kind of just like holding the space. And I think there
yeah.
might have been a couple other people holding the space. And what was coming up for me was like, I'm going to say sexual trauma, and I will state I've never had any, we'll go quote unquote, severe sexual trauma, but there have been partners I didn't really want to be having sex with, mistreating of my body, like,
Yeah.
disrespect, like very overly common, I think, sexual
Mm,
trauma. And it was coming up in such a profound way. And it was bizarre to me because I didn't even know I was holding it. And I know for a fact that it wouldn't have come up if I had a female facilitating me
mm,
up and was held so beautifully by the masculine. And
mm,
so my experience with male facilitators has been incredible. And the
mm,
feedback that I heard, even for Cam, through all of the women that have been in his programs, have been the same. Like, I didn't even know I had issues with men, or like I've had issues with men, and you're the first man that I've ever allowed to like support me or hold me. And it's life changing. It really, really
mm,
is. And I think also on the flip side, and I can't fully speak for them, but even just the feedback of men in my containers and my retreats, like being in spaces with women and doing this work together
mm,
it's just so healing. It's so connecting. And it's so important. And
Mm.
so coming back to you guys, like, yes, and thank you, and more, please. Like,
Yeah.
yes. Mm-hmm.
Cam, and also to give credit to Cam, Cam is my favorite person that I've ever been held space for in breathwork. Like,
Yeah.
I think he's like top dog for me,
He's next
because
level.
he's amazing. And
Mm-hmm.
we were going to be running a retreat in Canada, which didn't end up working out. But I said to Luca, I was like, I want Cam. It's like
Mm-hmm.
he's very holds similar but different energy to Luca, where he's so safe and so
Mm-hmm.
neutral. And it's even interesting seeing all these reels that have gone viral. So many people. There's if you go on my Instagram, you'll see there's a hug between Luca, my husband, and this woman who was at our retreat. So many
Mm-hmm.
people sexualize that. And it's
Yeah.
so fascinating because all of us that were in the room, like there was nothing sexual about it, right?
Yeah.
But the comments that people make is like, and then he grabbed her ass, and then, and then then she, yeah, like
Oh
people,
God.
and then he got a boner, or then
Oh
like
my
she got
God.
attached to him, and it's like, if anything, those comments only reflect how those people's issues, and right, because
Mm-hmm.
it, and I mean, you are inspiring me from saying this, but like we don't see enough safe platonic healing between men and women,
Mm-hmm.
that isn't a romantic thing, right? We
Yeah.
see couples work, which is beautiful in and of
Mm-hmm.
itself, but we don't really see that platonic because we're so used to, from media and like everything we see online, for it to be sexualized.
Yeah.
um, and there's so much healing that can go on when a safe woman or a safe man hold space for each other, and there literally is nothing else to that, right? Because that person is more a representation of that gender for the most
Mm-hmm.
part, as opposed
Mm-hmm.
to, being sexualized, or the issues that you've had with it, probably just like
Yeah.
you felt with Cam, right?
Totally.
And yeah, and Cam holds such a safe space for women. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. And like coming back to the, yeah, men and women being in spaces together. It's like we're all a bit wounded. Like we've all gone through
Yeah.
some shit.
Mm.
And if we haven't, our family has, and our ancestors has. And so
Hmm.
by default we have. And it's that coming together as can we just come together as humans? Like, can we just come together as
Yeah.
like little ones? Like my little one is really fucking hurt. And oh,
Mm.
your little one is really hurt. And so we're gonna come together. And it's yeah, I do see it. Do I wish that the whole world was in this work? Yes. And and I see
That
it
would
more.
solve all of our problems, I
It would solve
think.
everything. Come to a breathwork
Yeah.
journey. You're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no more violence in the world. It's happening though, it's happening.
Yeah.
And the comments that showed up on your reels in the not so bright light, it's just proof that this, like, okay, I'm going to keep working. There's more work to do. There's more work to do. There's
Hmm.
more work to do. And what a gift that is. And oh, and like how powerful when those individuals have that moment of, oh my God, it's not the way I thought it was. Like it's using the word again, like that is a reclamation. Like they get their whole, I'm going to say like almost like life back. They get to like rethink everything and they get to do everything differently as soon as they realize that everything isn't actually what you've been told it was or
Mm.
what your inner dialogue thinks it is.
Mm. And even, that moment in the retreat, and then hearing, she actually told us about her experience of it afterwards, because we saw it, but we obviously didn't know what was going through her mind in that. And she was just sharing how it was like having space held like that, and basically the essence of it is they were both standing across from each other, and she was
Mhm,
just expressing, what she felt about men from her
mhm,
life experience. And eventually Luke, when she had had her time to process, Luca asked if he could give her a hug, and
mhm,
then that was a big release, and that she was saying how there was all these layers being ripped off,
mhm,
and she has let us, told us that it's okay for her to share that her experience
mhm,
of it, and it's been really beautiful that she has allowed us to share that. But it has shown me on a deeper level is like the power of being, I don't want to use this word because but I'm going to use it for context and understanding. The
mhm,
power of being a healed person in
mhm,
this world, and just being yourself, can be a
mhm,
force of healing for so many fucking people,
mhm,
right? The
mhm,
amount of people that I have been in rooms with where like them just being in their light and being in their wholeness has been so healing for me to experience,
mhm,
even if I've never had a conversation with them. And I feel like even for me, that's such a motivation to like continue this work and be the embodiment of this work. Because
mhm,
yes, there's going to be people that I teach and I speak to, but there might be people that, just are, and I'm not saying I'm not fucking Gandhi or anything. I'm just like, that might be in my presence, or I might be in someone
Mhm,
else's presence, because
mhm,
you've probably experienced that. You're just around someone and you feel different because of
mhm.
how they embody the work that they have done.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm. Yeah. And it's never done.
Never done.
It's never
It's
done.
just next levels of it, right?
Totally.
There's new
Just
levels.
deeper and more and deeper and more. And
Yeah.
that to me is like such a great gift. Like how boring would life be if we had it all figured out and
Yeah.
like nothing to do?
Yeah.
Be
Yeah.
brutal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Wow. I love this all. What do you have coming up? What do you have on the go? How can people
Yes.
land in your world?
Me and Luca have a masterclass coming up, depending when
Mhm.
this comes out,
I
called
will
Raise
tell
the
you right
Bar.
now. It's coming out on February 26th.
Oh, amazing. So we have a masterclass on February 28th coming out on Raise the
Mm.
Bar, elevating your
Okay.
standards in your relationship to attract the
Hmm.
partner, or to be with the partner of your dreams. And then I have my mindset program for women coming out called Magnetic, which
Amazing.
is coming out on the 4th of the 4th. We're starting on the 4th of the 4th, so April 4th.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and that's like a more in-depth program of everything that I've been speaking of. And I share all of the things that I learned from the Olympics, elite level sports psychologists, also interwoven with all the inner work that I do now, to really
Hmm.
master that mindset in your own world. So I love that work as well.
Beautiful. So I'll put that in the show notes. If you haven't sent that over to me, get that in,
Okay, I will.
get that over and I'll get it
This has
out.
been such a juicy conversation. I can't even believe that. I feel like I just blinked and it's gone.
I know. I'm like, we could keep talking. I have nothing to
Yeah.
do for another hour. We could totally keep jamming. Yeah. Is there anything like front of mind present that you feel like jamming on?
Can I ask you,
Mhm.
if you could totally cut
Yeah.
this out if you don't talk about it? What is the work that you've had to do to be in relationship with Cam?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, dating the wrong people and staying in those for too long to appease them and to
Yeah,
um, almost like more so to deflate and minimize my intuition. Like really known, like I've always known this isn't the right person, this isn't right. And I stay because I turn that part of me off. I've turned that in. Nope, that's not right. And so it's been a lot of mindset and
mm,
and like really turning that, I call it like my inner witness, that part of me that's like really present to all parts, that part that's present to my anger, my fear, my jealousy, my sadness, my pleasure, my rage, all of it, just turning her all the way on so that she's not missing a beat, like so that every time there's a feeling in me she's on it. And what that means is allowing all of those expressions fully through. So it's been like a decluttering. I've been allowing myself to feel things that I haven't felt before.
mm,
Um, a lot of grief, a lot of grief to move through. And underneath that, because I think there's definitely a worthiness piece there. But for me, what it was is fear of, and it started with my mom passing. It was the one person that I loved the most
mm.
left. She left me. And so I armored up. I totally armored up and didn't allow my heart to be fully fulfilled, because if it was fully fulfilled, it would
They
also
could
mean
be gone.
they would be gone. And I'd have to be really present with the other side of that fully fulfilled, which was the grief. And so I just dated people that weren't right for me so that I could always be the one to be like, peace, I'm out. And they
So
would
you
never
protected
leave me.
yourself. Yeah, so they wouldn't leave. Ah,
Hmm.
what a
Hmm.
beautiful thing to witness in yourself. My
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah. And like I've told Cam, and like recently, or I said it to someone recently, like he's the first person that I am like, you could crush me. Like it would absolutely crush me. And I'm gonna go anyway. It's that like courage. Like it just,
Mm,
it's everything I've ever wanted.
yeah.
And so there just had to be that trust that like, nope, just go. We're just gonna
Yes.
go. And yeah, if he leaves, it'll be devastating. If, if this comes to an end, that'll be a thing to look at. I don't feel like it's going that direction, but it was a huge piece for me. And to get there, sorry, I kind of like skipped a piece. I had to go back and actually really, really look at the death of my mom, which I had put on the back burner because I didn't want to go there. It was too hard.
Yeah.
So I have actually like come back after like 18 years. It's now been 20
Wow.
years and like opened that can of worms up and allowed myself to feel all of that.
That is so beautiful to hear because
Mm,
I think people think that they got to do, and of course you got to do the work to attract attract the person into your life, but also like the work fucking begins when you like meet your aligned person, right? Like,
yeah.
because exactly what you said, like the work never, it always continues because there's a new level of it. And
Hmm.
even, and I'm navigating this with some of my clients at the moment, even when you get everything you want, there's a level of having to figure that out, because
Yeah.
almost everyone has this moment of like, oh shit,
Yeah.
what if it goes? And I had that
Yeah.
even with me and Luca when we got together years ago, because he's gone through an incredible like growth journey, but he was like very non-committal and he wanted to be polyamorous, which is no judgment to that. That's just not what I
Hmm.
wanted. And I I saw the potential of who we could be. And I
Hmm.
think both of us had to grow so much to become the people that we are today, to be in this relationship that we're in. But I had this conscious moment where I'm like, I could dive in and experience the greatest love of my life, but I could also
Hmm.
experience the greatest hurt of my life. But
Yeah.
I'm willing to possibly experience the greatest hurt because I want to know what it tastes like to have the greatest love.
Oh, I have chills again.
And that was like so powerful, because when you meet someone in that,
Hmm.
who's willing to like walk the path with you, like there is work in that, absolutely.
Oh.
But like there's like, I didn't realize, I never heard a narrative that relationship gets to be this fucking good and
Hmm.
then it gets to get better and better. Like
Hmm.
it has been, it just is new levels of better, right? And I
Hmm.
feel like we see this dialogue of relationship, which is like, oh, it's so funny, even getting married, like the things that people say to us, like, how's the ball and chain? Like,
Hmm.
and both of us like, no, this is not a ball and chain. Like, I choose to be with this person. This person makes me fucking joy. They're my favorite human on the planet. Like, it's
Yeah.
wonderful. And every day isn't butterflies and rainbows, right?
Yeah.
But like when you're willing to face each other and face yourself and do that work, like what I've experienced in relationship is like, what is like, keep pushing the ceiling of how great,
Hmm.
how much
Hmm.
ecstasy, how much bliss, how much
Hmm.
orgasm, how much
Hmm.
everything that you can feel. And our relationship has been such a great like cultivator for that in the other areas of our life. But
Yeah.
I share this because I wish that I heard this. I didn't hear
Yeah.
this dialogue about relationship when I was growing up.
Same. Yeah. 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 Like even, yeah, I think about, and I don't know if it's a generational thing, but there was a lot of settling
Mm,
before, which I totally did. I
totally.
learned that. I learned that settling was a thing. And so I settled my whole
Yeah.
life to the point even where I left my last relationship. And I will preface, like, I say I dated the wrong men. I dated really good men. I dated nice
Yeah.
men. I dated loving men. They just were not my people. And my last partnership was just like the sweetest man. And I phoned my dad and my stepmom to be like, hey, we're splitting up. And they're like, oh, why? And I was like, well, to be honest, like, we're really just friends. Like, we're friends who live together. And my stepmom was like, well, what? So what? Why is that a big deal? And I was like, because I would like to have sex, Mary, because I would like to have sex. I would like to, and I would like to have sex. And she was like, ah, well, I don't know. I mean, go have sex somewhere else. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh
Like,
my gosh, really?
not, yeah. They were just like, oh, I
Whoa.
don't know why you would leave. Like, just stay. He's a good guy. What?
That's
What?
wild.
Like, don't you
What?
want more for me as your
Yeah.
child? It was fascinating. It's fascinating. So,
But
yeah.
that's, to be fair, it could be a level of that's just all they know, right? And I think
Yeah.
for women too, it was, we're so lucky to be alive in this day and age. 'Cause like 150 years ago, it was like you just got to find someone because it is safety, right? And
Yeah.
so good enough is good enough, right? Because you
Yeah.
don't have time or space or capacity
Hmm.
or like the safety to shop around, right? Whereas
Right.
like we have that luxury nowadays, and I see that with
Hmm.
women too. And it's the whole reason why we started to run our retreats is like because I really believe I love that quote from Marianne Williamson. It's not your greatest fear,
Mm.
it's your light that you're dark, not your darkness that you're afraid of.
Yeah.
Because owning your light as a human being when you're starting to do this work is so triggering for other people because you
Yeah.
pour light onto their shadows. And
Hmm.
even like in friendships, that I have, me owning, just speaking to friends, and it's like, oh, they don't, their partner is lovely, beautiful, but it's like, they don't really have sex. Or,
Hmm.
and I'm like, oh, I have a wonderful sex life. I have a great relationship. Like that's fucking intimidating to own that,
Yeah.
right? Because we have this dialogue that's like, oh, people that are like too much or like full of themselves. And
Hmm.
we all, if you haven't done the work, you like to like trauma bond and toxic bond,
Hmm.
not like inspiration bond, right? And so
Hmm.
I think, but in all of that, these conversations are so important because it's like if we allow ourselves to lean into that fear, that next level of fear beyond the settling of like, okay, maybe what if I don't find this person, but what if I do? Usually, when
Hmm.
you lean into that, you do find that,
Hmm.
on the other
Hmm.
side of the work because
Hmm.
you believe that there's more. And so
Yeah,
therefore there is.
exactly. And it's making me think that anyone who is still in the narrative of there are no good men, there are no good women, everyone cheats, whatever the story is,
Yeah.
then yes, correct. That is
Yeah.
exactly what you will find. Absolutely. You're right. And so again, it's like it's changing that narrative. So it's that mindset. It's changing the narrative and it's changing the energy. Like, okay, so if you want
Hmm.
to call in your dream partner, who are you when you have that dream partner? Like, who does that dream partner
Mm.
deserve? Can you be in that energy of her or him now? And let that
Mm.
magnet like find itself. But if you're like, there are no good men, men suck, men cheat, meh, 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 we're all energy. We're all energy. We're all little magnets. And I'm pretty sure that that is not a magnetizing energy. It's kind of
No.
repelling. And so
Yeah.
it's pretty easy math to be like, well, they're just getting further and further away.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it
It's so
starts
interesting
here.
because I hear so many women say that there's no good men, and it's like I'm very grateful that that has actually never been. I have other stuff that I need to work on. That's not a core wound of mine in my life.
Hmm.
I actually have a beautiful relationship with my father, and I know that's a lot of women's story. That's never been my story. Therefore, I see good men all the
Hmm.
time. Like,
Yep.
and even before Cam, when Cam was single, I was like, I'm like, I could name like 15 incredible men that are single right now that are in my
Hmm.
vicinity. And they are there because I'm obviously in a relationship and I'm so happy in my relationship, but I'm saying that I see that because that's my belief system,
Yep.
right? And so therefore they show up all the time.
Yes.
And we have to shift that within ourselves because like we
Hmm.
will perpetuate the reality that we're telling ourselves. So if you're telling
Hmm.
yourself that there's no good men, you're never going to see them around. I see good men all the time. They pop up in my field. I need to become a matchmaker because
Yes,
I
totally.
have so many
Add it
good
to the
single men
list.
friends. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, same. They're everywhere. They're floating around everywhere. They're just waiting for the women to
They
see
are.
them. They
Yeah,
just want to be seen, just like we
they do.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's
Love
really
this.
cool to see you and wherever your relationship goes. I'm so happy for you and Cam. Knowing I met Cam when I was in Bali like almost 5 years ago, and
Hmm.
he was in a different relationship then, and he's gone through his
Hmm.
own process. But when I heard about you guys together and heard a little bit of your story, I said to him when I saw him a few weeks ago, I was like, you guys are perfect for each other. Like it makes
Mm.
so much sense. Like I get it. I get why you found each other. Like your past and your fitness background and your breath work and your like just the way that you own yourselves. Like it's really cool to see. I didn't know you before I met him, but I it's so cool to see two epic humans find each other,
Mm.
whatever your journey may be. And so I just want you to know that like very, very, very happy for you, cheering you
Thank
guys on from
you.
from over the pond
Yay.
on
Thank
the
you.
mainland.
Yeah. You know, it's so cool. It was actually, and we still talk about it sometimes. So we have like a lot of our community is mixed. Like a lot of people in my community have been in his community or vice versa. So there's a lot of people who
Yeah.
know both of us. And the amount of messages we got and continue to get from people who know us, and I've had messages from people who don't know him at all.
Yeah.
And it's always like, oh my God, of course, I've been waiting for this. This makes so much sense. Absolutely. I had clients who, when Cam and I were just friends and we were collaborating on a retreat in Costa Rica together, and it was like super platonic, both in partnerships. I had clients and friends who had messaged and they're like, it's this guy. This is your guy. This is your person. Like, tell me this is your person. And I was always like, it's not my person. Like, we're just friends. So many people were
Oh my
like, oh,
gosh, that's
finally,
so
this makes
funny.
so much sense. So it feels like a very, very like deeply supportive.
The world is cheering you guys on. Yay.
Totally. I feel it. Yeah. It feels
Yeah.
really good.
Do you feel more, leave me interviewing you, sorry. Do you feel different? Like, does your life force energy feel different being in relationship?
Oh, 100%. And it's so
Yeah.
interesting as well. Like I have two business coaches that work together, but two business coaches. And the moment Cam and I like verbalized that there was a thing here between us, it was like within days, they were like, what has happened to your energy? Your social media is different. The way you're showing up in
Mm,
calls is different. The stuff you're sharing online is different. Like whatever this is, yes. And I've heard that so many times, like my energy being in this relationship, it's like it's my truth. It's like I'm finally
mm,
here. It's almost like this version of me has just been waiting and like, let me out, let me out. But I never felt contained. I never felt safe. I never felt held.
yeah.
I always felt like I had to hold everything. And now
Yeah.
being with a man who can like hold that structure and hold the masculine so I can just like, oh my God, like lean back and show up as my truth. It's
Mm.
yeah, I'm a completely different person, but like my true person. That makes
Mm.
sense.
It's re- it's really cool to hear that. That's what I felt in relationship. And like when you choose each other, not just like,
Mm-hmm.
casual, because it's like I feel like when if you choose monogamy and you're with your person, like you become such an incredible unit that you make each other better. Like it's such a beautiful
Mm-hmm.
journey. And so you're
Mm-hmm.
proving my theory correct, basically.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So not to, yeah, for anyone out there, like it's holding your standard for your person is
Mm-hmm.
absolutely worth it because life does get better in many
Mm-hmm.
ways.
Yeah, it does. Uh, any more questions, boss?
No, I'm good. This just like flipped around.
I love it. I'm here for it. Okay, I'm going to gather myself and
Yeah.
we're going to tie this up with a sweet little bow. So you
Okay.
mentioned your masterclass and you mentioned your bigger offering coming in April. Is there
Yes.
anything else and where can we find you?
Yeah, you can check out my Instagram, which is different. I've changed my name, the Danielle Reedy, Reedy.
Hmm.
And I have a podcast called the Beautiful Souls Podcast as well.
Hmm.
If you want to
Hmm.
find more of my voice. And if you've enjoyed this, just come over on Instagram and say hi. We'd love to hear from you. And you can check out on our Instagram, you can find more about our retreats. We have one coming up in Bali in June.
Love me some Bali.
Yeah, same.
Okay, I'll put all of that in the show notes. So it's easy, easy peasy.
Amazing. This
Okay,
has been so
thank you
fun.
so
Thanks for
much.
you for
Yeah.
letting me ask you questions.
Oh, my pleasure. That was fun. That every podcast needs to be like that now. I won't
Yeah.
even stop the call until they've asked me three questions.
Yeah. Love it.
Standard. I love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's
We'll
been such
chat
a
soon.
pleasure.
Mhm. Bye.